Welcome into another Inside Carolina Noon Dish. I'm Tommy Ashley. That's Don Callahan. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt, johnnytshirt.com. If you are not a member of the Inside Carolina community, now's the time to do it. $1 gets you a month of premium Inside Carolina subscription, which comes with a healthy dose of Don Callahan. Grinning Don Callahan there on the center of your stage. Something else I did on the side is I threw the comments up so folks can see the comments in the chat as we're rolling. I'm not sure how that's going to go. That could be either a good thing or a bad thing. I'm going to have to be on my P's and Q's to keep the mess off of there if there's anybody trying to clown. Eric Miller just preemptively tells Don that it is Aiden Duncanson that played ahead of Travis Burgess at quarterback. And so just to get that out of the way.
I'm not giving him the chat MVP because he bailed me out again.
Yeah, so he's already won the chat MVP, but today we're going to sort of talk about the defense. If you remember last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, we talked about the offensive or what was left on the North Carolina offense roster. Today we'll talk about the defensive side of the ball. Plenty of work to be done, not only in recruiting, which we've seen in the 26 class, but also the portal class that is going to have to be hefty. Don, what's up?
Not much. I appreciate Eric Miller coming in with the Aiden Duncanson. We do have a chat MVP from our 2.5 hours? Is that how long we went?
Oh yeah, we did signing day. That was last week though.
I know. Doesn't it feel like it was like a month ago?
Yeah, really. Yes. I can't figure out if time's flying or time's stuck. It's like it is unbelievable. But yes.
So
kick it out.
Our MVP for that 2.5 hours was Blue Heaven 23. So hopefully Blue Heaven is in here today. Congratulations. We are dedicating this podcast to you. He was very active in that 2.5 hours. There's a lot of people very active in the 2.5 hours, so it was very hard to choose just one chat participant. But do we have a top 5?
I was going to say, do we have a top 5? I was thinking top 5 home-cooked sweets. And the reason I said that is because we've got a tray of them downstairs in the kitchen that is absolutely putting extra weight on me, without question.
So I need to come over.
You probably, unless you got here immediately, you probably miss out because I've already killed a rectangle Pyrex dish. We call it chew bread. It is like a brownie slash like a blondie. I don't know what you really call it, but it's got like the caramel flavor. It's got pecans in it. Man, I love it. And it's chew bread because it's not doughy, but it is ridiculous. And that is one of my favorites. That is one thing that has been perfected in the house, sweets wise. But do you agree with my top 5 idea?
Sure. Let's roll with it.
So either do your top 5. I'm putting it in the chat here. Top 5 favorite home cooked sweets.
Well, this is a good time for that as you're learning.
Absolutely. Or just your favorite home cooked sweet. And if folks want to share some recipes, we can be a cooking show. We've been a golf show. We're a recruiting show. We can be a cooking show.
Want to deliver their home cooked sweets.
Well, we were just having a discussion.
Put my address in the chat.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't put your cell phone number or your address in the chat. And don't park on the street at Don Callahan's house if you're ever in his neighborhood. You might get towed, or at least you get a nasty Facebook message.
You get nasty. Not from me. We have some neighbors who get a little crazy. Technically, it is against the HOA rules if you live in my neighborhood and park in the street. But some neighbors we have some Karens, which I'm sure every neighborhood does, but we definitely have some Karens. It gets kind of
Al Seymour in the chat kind of makes me nervous. We're on a 77-inch LG, I assume 4K television. I don't know. I probably should have shaved. I should have cleaned up a little bit.
Just hopped out of the shower and shaved and all that. So I'm feeling good about it.
Well, it is going to be a fun show. But Don, let's get into it. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the offense. And you've been doing another reason for folks to be on the Inside Carolina Premium message boards, you've been doing sort of the state of each position room, and you're updating those now currently. And one question I had is, how difficult is it to update and to do this when literally announcements, and this slowed down a little bit, knock on some sort of wood, when things could change, like you could literally click publish, and before it gets into the ether, it could be different. How's that?
Yeah. And that happened with the tight ends with Jake Johnson. As soon as I posted Jake Johnson, I think somebody asked the question, what are the chances that he enters the portal? And I said basically, I expect him to enter the portal. And I think it was like 30 minutes later, he entered the portal. So typically, considering it was only like an hour or two, I went and actually edited the story because it's a simple sort of edit. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of part of it. And just a little bit more detailed backstory. We ran these, I think it was before the Duke game, I believe. We ran these and so obviously there's 2 games left. So when we're updating them, we're also updating the percentage of offensive or defensive snaps, depending on obviously the position. So you can kind of get an idea of who's actually played and how much, and then, and how much, more than anything else, how much a departure actually matters as far as like playing time wise, like how much does North Carolina is looking to kind of to fill, what sort of vacancy are they looking at? And so updating that, and then obviously, as you mentioned, updating the portal entries, which really have we had a bunch last week and then got really quiet over the weekend. We're definitely expecting more for sure. And
It has to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if as everyone knows, or I guess I shouldn't assume everyone knows, the rule is that the transfer portal doesn't open until January 2nd. So Jake Johnson, for example, since we were just talking about it, he's declaring that he's going to enter the portal. He's not in the portal now. He can't talk to other schools. He can't visit any other schools. He can't do anything. It's just him saying, hey, I'm going to enter the portal when it opens on January 2nd. What we have seen in the past is, yes, there are a lot of players who announce they're going to enter the portal or announce that they have entered the portal. But there are some who don't announce anything, and the only way it gets reported is because somebody has access to the actual transfer portal and sees their name pop up in there. And, obviously with the portal not open, we don't have access to that. So this is a long way of saying on January 2nd, we could see a bunch of names just pop up there, names that we hadn't heard before or weren't expecting. Because they hadn't made any sort of announcements, because that's just the way that player and his agent decided to take is to keep it kind of quiet.
Yeah, and let's not be mistaken. I mean, you can call it tampering, you can call it preparation, you can call it whatever you want to call it. There are discussions being had for players going in and out of the portal, and there might even been an occasion across the country where guys are encouraged to go into the portal, and we might have a bag for you at some other school. So all those type things go on everywhere. It is one of those things that it opens officially on January 2nd and runs through the 16th. To Don's point, there are plenty of players that are coming out and announcing that they're going in the portal when in fact it goes live on January 2nd. And Don, correct me if I'm wrong, and you sort of hint on that. That is when it becomes like you can track the portal. There are websites or there are services that show schools who's in the portal. Like
yeah, so
when a name hits it'll pop up on there. But those aren't active right now because the portal's not open. Correct?
Yeah. So technically, the portal is private, and so only the schools have access to it. But how many schools we're talking about here? Hundreds of schools, thousands of schools. So people get access to it who shouldn't have access to it. So there are, On3, for example, has a great portal tracker for you that does a good job of updating this stuff. The great thing about what On3 does also is that it has a designation of I don't know what they call it, if it's intends to go into the portal or declares to go into the portal, whatever it may be. So you can kind of get an idea of, hey, this guy, because there is a realistic chance that a kid says today I'm going to enter the portal, and then come January 2nd, they have a change of heart or maybe a change of bank account. So that's a very real possibility. So I'm glad that On3 makes that sort of designation so you can kind of see. And then Trip Mason has a question here that I wanted to kind of just make sure we're all on the same page. Where you see it, where it says, "Are GMs able to talk to agents before the portal opens, since it's not directly to the player, or how does that work?" Technically, if they talk to the agent about a specific player, that's tampering. Now, how can anybody prove that? And who would it be? And anyone? There's only two people on that phone call. I would anticipate there's only two people on the phone call: the agent and the GM. And it's not in either one of their best interest to put it out there that they were talking about a player or tampering with a player. So technically, that's not supposed to happen, but that absolutely does happen and happens all the time. But that's why we won't get a whole lot of I don't anticipate anybody announcing, I imagine that there are deals that are sealed, as far as there are done deals that probably are done now. If they're not, they're going to be done within the next couple of weeks, that won't be announced until the portal opens, because nobody wants to announce, hey, so-and-so is committed to this school, and then everybody knows who's tampering. You know what I mean? So you want to keep it as under wraps as possible. So it's going to be really interesting to follow, because obviously you can't sign anything. It's all verbal. And then you might have an agreement in place on December 15th, but then come January 2nd, when you actually get the paperwork, is everything looking the way it's supposed to look? It could create some interesting situations that we'll see in early January.
Well, let me ask this question. Georgia Hill or GA Hill, correct me either way. GA Hill says, are there pros and cons for announcing you're entering the portal? I don't think there's any con to announce you're entering the portal for a couple of reasons. One, it lets schools know that you're available. Two, it lets your school know that you're leaving, and then the pot might get sweetened, to your point. And that happens aplenty for sure. But your take on that question?
Yeah, I think I've talked to some parents, players, agents. Most of the ones that I've spoken to are all in agreement that publicity is great with these things. That's why you'll see with Pete Nakos and Steve Wiltfong and others, they're citing the agents or saying, so-and-so, this quarterback is going to enter the transfer portal, because they view the publicity as positive. Knowing that this quarterback is in the portal is only going to help create some sort of demand for him, or increase the demand for him, and make sure it's maximized. And I don't need to give I don't think anybody wants an econ lesson from me, but the demand is going to be key when it comes to how much that player is going to make. Now, there are definitely some agents that really in the last year I've had different encounters, and it just kind of blows my mind, just their thinking on certain things. So I'm sure that there might be some agents out there who don't want their players' names out there for whatever reason. I don't understand it, but yeah, I feel like I'm with you 100%. I feel like it's all positive.
I'd be interested to know the answer to that. What you said, there are many people that you've talked to and you don't understand their way of thinking or whatever. I'd be interested to hear that. Maybe off air, maybe super uber premium.
So I'll tell you that there was a UNC commit whose agent told him not to do a commitment interview afterwards. And I was like, all right, that's fine. And I told I was talking to the recruit, and I said, hey, this is the first time I've ever encountered this. And I would love to know what the thinking would be on what the negative would be, because I feel like it would be a positive, because you want NIL money. This is free advertisement, me doing an interview with you. And I know I'm biased in this. And he was like, yeah, well, this is what I'm being advised to. And I was like, all right, that's fine. I completely respect it. I appreciate you telling me that. So I'm not hounding you and asking you for this interview. And then, I don't know, maybe it was the next day, the recruit came back to me and said, "Hey, we can do the interview." My agent cleared it. I actually ended up, quote unquote, bumping into that agent later on and just trying to get his about something completely separate. I didn't even know that this was the agent. And he mentioned who he represents, and I got to talking to him a little bit. Yeah, I think it was just one of the, and maybe not be in this situation. I think in general, it's not like in the NFL where there is a you have to be certified to be an agent to represent an NFL player, and they have this whole process and everything, a vetting process. In college football right now, and this is one of the many things that needs to be fixed with college football, but anybody can represent a player. And I think that has created some problems in the past. And I think, if you don't understand the game completely, then I think it could cause a problem. So, they're thinking differently than I am, obviously. And so I would love to have an idea of why you wouldn't want to put your player's name in there. But I'm sure maybe there's some sort of variables that I'm unaware of.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen some players, people in general over the years, you don't want them in front of a microphone under any circumstances. We see that daily in this country and world. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting dynamic that you speak of, and everybody wants to control the narrative, and I get it. We're talking with Don Callahan here on the
and that could be a big part of it, controlling the narrative.
Yeah, 100%. The narrative.
Because
I mean,
the one thing I do tell, and I've never had any issue, but people have said, "Hey, can I see the story before you run it?" And I said, "I will show you the story, but I'm not going unless there's some sort of error or whatever. Like I obviously want things to be right, but we're not going to change it to." And I'm not TMZ. I'm not putting these stories out to make anybody look bad, but I'm also not going to be an infomercial. You know what I mean? So, yeah. I mean, none of my stories have ever been negative. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Talking with Don Callahan here on the Noon Dish. Shout out to Johnny T-Shirt, johnnytshirt.com. Get your swag there for Christmas, 10% off if you're a Tar Pit Premium Message Board or Inside Carolina Premium member. Go to InsideCarolina.com. Get that subscription started for $1, and you'll never regret it. It'll be the best money you've spent if you care about Carolina football recruiting, Carolina basketball recruiting, and great work from the entire crowd. Greg Barnes, senior reporter, dropping knowledge every day. Somebody mentioned it in the chat. We're doing mini next levels every day, Greg and me. And yeah, it stays quite busy around these parts. We've got a new name for that. We finally figured out a new name for that daily show. I'll announce it for tomorrow's show at some point. Anyway, click the QR code in top right if you are so inclined, know how to do that, and sign up for Inside Carolina. Done. And there's another question. Can a player and coach have the same agent? That would be a major conflict of interest. Do you find that coaches, well, that's a good question. Somebody like represents coaches, and we know the big names that represent coaches. Do they also represent players? And maybe that's more of the NFL side of things, but now it's in college. How do you avoid those conflicts there? I think if you had agents representing both, have you run into that?
Yeah. The one example that I'm aware of, and I'm sure there's plenty others, if people were following the Carter Gooden recruitment, a 4-star edge rusher from up in Massachusetts, his agent was the same agent as the former coach at UCLA. Was that Deshaun Foster, right? The one that was fired.
Mm-hmm.
They had the same agent. Carter initially committed to UCLA, and everyone kind of pointed to that as being the prime reason. Now, to his credit, he stayed committed to UCLA well beyond Foster's firing, but he did eventually flip to Tennessee. But you got to think that the agent connection played a major role in that recruitment, whether it was the defining sort of decision or not. It had to have some sort of influence. I'm unaware of any other ones, but I'm sure there are others. So there are no rules. So there is no rule against it because there are no rules.
It's crazy. Is it truly? Will the portal season this year, just in general, and you can speak to Carolina, we know what Carolina needs or should need, but is it going to be as chaotic as it's been in the past? Has it settled down at all from what you see, and you're in the middle of it, reporting it?
Yeah. I guess my answer right now is I don't know. I think it feels like it could. The thing that we've noticed the last few years, the numbers, the quantity of transfers in the portal has increased each year, but the quality has dropped down a lot. And that's because a lot of schools, particularly the last 2 years, have focused primarily on retention and realizing that the grass isn't always greener. And so and I think that hurt North Carolina a lot last year because what was in the portal, it's not necessarily the whole, everyone brings up the Mateer and the Mendoza situation. Those guys, as I've said 1,000 times, were going to end up at Oklahoma and Indiana because of the relationships. But what hurt North Carolina mostly is that the pool of talent, there's just not as many great players or starter quality players in the portal. And my inclination is that that's only going to continue with in this portal cycle, is that there's going to be a lot of names in there, but it's all going to be players. I shouldn't say all. Most of the players in there are going to be players that other schools didn't want. And so you kind of have to weed through that a little bit. Will there be really good players in there? Absolutely. But there's not going to be a lot of them. And the cost for those players is going to be high. And so I still think it's probably going to be, I guess it depends on your definition of chaotic. I feel like North Carolina has to answer a lot of questions on their roster through the portal in order to have any sort of chance next year, because they're losing a lot. And so if chaotic is meaning that North Carolina is going to bring in a lot of players, I would say it is chaotic. But there are certainly some signs to wonder, is it maybe it's less? Last year, what was it, 31 or 32? Mm-hmm. Is it less than that because of they want to get a lot of these true freshmen some playing time, or they believe in these true freshmen, whether it works out or not, or I don't know. And there's always the talk about, how much money is left over after spending so much money on the high school recruiting. Is there going to be enough to pull in a lot of starters? Because they're in need of a lot of starters. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, and that sort of brings me around to where I started on that we were going to talk about on the show, is looking at the depth chart and looking at the status checks. Hold on a second.
Is that lady pooping in your lawn again, or her dog?
I was making sure that wasn't happening again. There's a couple of
if it happens,
of those little things.
Will you jump up live on the air and go
bang on the window, and call her out? Yeah, so we're really nice people around here. We don't call people out. Oh. Just don't use the bathroom in my yard, or let your dog do it. Talking about your status updates of the rooms, and one I'm looking at specifically right now is the linebacker room, and you sort of outline it. Kamori House jumped in the portal. Simpson and Bayer eligibility up. You would think, Don, that they're going to have to spend some money, or at least dip in the portal a plenty here, unless you're going to start Aguamato, Hickman Collins, one of the other guys you have listed, Bauer, Bennett, Hauser, Pascal, or Forkpa, or Calvin Thomas. We've heard those two names, freshman names, as people that could contribute for sure, or Avenger, or Griffin Haynes. And this is just a linebacker room. I think the defensive line's probably in a pretty good spot if they keep everybody. The secondary is going to need some stuff. But let's talk about this linebacker room. I don't think you can go into 2026 with it as it's so constituted right now. That tells me the portal is going to be important for that position group, maybe other than quarterback, the most, right?
I mean, I don't
Well,
even know.
offensive line.
Yeah, offensive line to me. I know everyone wants to point to the quarterback because that's the face, but to me, I look at least you have a starter. There are a lot of other positions where you don't have somebody who has started, and linebacker is a great example. I mean, if you just had to make a decision based off of who is there now, forgetting about the portal, I mean, you're looking at probably a competition between, I'm not going to even try to pronounce it for me again, the linebacker.
I say Agamadu, but it could be somebody different.
Hickman Collins. I mean, those were the two that received the most snaps of those returning, and it's less than 10%. Now, DQ Forkpaw is going to be as ready of a true freshman as you're going to have because he's a kid who has played at two national powerhouses in St. Francis, and then oh God, I'm forgetting the other one. Anyway,
it's your line of work. I'll look it up while you're talking.
Mill Creek, and then also spent this past off season at IMG, where it's football year round and constant training, constant practicing, and all that sort of stuff. And then if you see him in person, I mean, he looks the part. So he definitely has the ability, but he's also a true freshman. And I think linebacker, you're typically is the guy who has the red dot on the hat, making the calls. You're going to trust that to a true freshman or somebody who hasn't really done it too often, with inexperience. I mean, yeah. So I'm with you. I think that this is a position that will need to be addressed in the portal for sure.
Yeah, just looking at it, and it's wild. And again, it could change in this room just as easy as any others. But you mentioned that is 12.7. That's about 14% of the snaps last year returning in that room. And just so folks understand what I'm looking at, and if this is part of the premium membership, if you're so inclined to get it in South Carolina, you've got the scholarship depth chart, and Don's got everybody listed. He's got everybody listed with their percentages of snaps. So Kamari House had 90.6% of the snaps that linebacker position took. Andrew Simpson's down to 84.9, and then Bayer. I thought Bayer played more than that. He probably should have 29.3%. But anyway, then everybody else adds up to maybe 14%. So you got roughly 86% of the production / snaps in the linebacker room have to be replaced. That's an incredible number for a very important position. We've seen how that position is very different and very necessary for this North Carolina defense. So, Don, looking at what you've done so far, and these are dropping daily, is the defensive line the best off one? It has to be the best off one. If they can pay everybody and keep everybody happy, because we've seen retention be a little bit of an issue, at least it was last year. And it's a two-part question. One, have they learned from last year and the retention issue they had going into this year? And are they going to be able to do it? There's a lot of names on this list, a lot of really good names. Melkart Abujade is the main one. Are they going to be able to handle that? And have they learned from the process over the year they've been in Chapel Hill?
Well, I don't know if they've learned or what they have learned. I'm sure they've learned stuff. But I do know that all the information that we have received is that they definitely, when it comes to retention, they want to keep all of the defensive linemen that saw some snaps last year. And so obviously Melkart is one of the main ones you're talking about. But Tyler Thompson, obviously, but really, like, even guys like CJ Mims and Isaiah Johnson, all those players, from my understanding, the staff wants to keep in the fold for sure. And that's going to be one of the top priorities. And then, if you look at that group, way different scenario. You lose Smith Filbert, and I mean, you lose technically Price Yates, but he didn't really play. You really don't lose anyone. And it was probably, I mean, I'll ask you, was the D line the most productive group or position, this season?
If I have to point to a bright spot on the defensive side of the ball, it would 100% be the defensive line.
Yeah.
And they vastly outperformed what we thought they would going in. And that's a credit to Diaco. That is a credit to the coaching staff. That's a credit to these guys. And I mean, you had Melcart come in from Delaware and certainly looked the part, but nobody in the world knew that he was going to take off like he did. And he and Tyler Thompson. Tyler Thompson only 34% of the snaps last year. Judging from how he did the last part of the year, I mean, it probably should have been about 80%. But that's a guy you got to keep. That's a North Carolina kid you got to keep on the roster, I think. And then you've got the others. Isaiah Johnson, Jackson, Mims, those guys in the middle. I mean, you got to keep them for continuity, but also the strength and conditioning and all that stuff that they're going to get. But I think this room specifically, and there's a lot of names on here that we heard about that we never saw. Daniel Anderson is one. I think this is the best room on the team currently.
Yeah.
Depending on what happens in the wide receiver room. But on the defensive side, I definitely think this is the best room.
Well, even with the wide receiver room, you have Ship, but there's not much after that. You don't have a clear number 2. This, I mean, to me, if I were making the decisions, and obviously there's a lot of variables I don't have, such as money-wise, my goal would be to retain everybody and not even mess with D-line in the portal, because you have some really talented true freshmen that you want to make sure are getting practice reps. And then even, I mean, there's like Vodney Cleveland, if he's making nearly the amount of money that I heard he's making, you got to want to get him in the rotation. So, but even forgetting about that, I mean, I just think that they have some D linemen that I think, true freshmen coming in that you definitely want to get some reps, not necessarily like meaningful reps, or reps that are going to determine a game. But I mean, from a starter standpoint, you definitely have. I think you have what you have here. You have what you really need. And I don't know how much better you can get going through the portal, especially when you consider all the needs everywhere else.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, you can say edge rushers and the like are very expensive, and you've got some on this roster that you can certainly I mean, you can win with, I think. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And so try to keep this room as a whole, and then to your point, spend that money elsewhere. Defensive backfield, you hadn't done that article yet. I assume it drops tomorrow.
Yeah, that's coming out this afternoon. You can actually go, and here's a little trick for everybody, because I knew that Tommy was going to need it. If you go to, remember I told you,
is this going to be the inside?
Yeah, go to the second page. It's there, and it has been basically updated. There's a couple of spots, but from a numbers standpoint, the numbers and all of that are all updated. So if you want to go and click that while
I don't see it. Second page of what?
It's on the second page. If you're on the remember the drop down football recruiting news feed.
Oh yeah.
So while you're looking at that, jump off 0519. Do we have a starter or quarterback? I think, yeah. I mean, you might not like him, but he's a starter. He started at North Carolina this past year, started at South Alabama, and was pretty good last year. Some of the names were being tossed around. The kid from Harvard is the one name that we mentioned in our report on Monday. And I mean, who's to say he comes in and is that much better than Gio Lopez? Because there were a lot of people who were super excited about Gio Lopez last spring because of what he did at South Alabama. So, I mean, I think North Carolina has a starter quarterback. Is he the answer? That's up to it's up to everybody's opinion, I guess. But there are positions like linebacker, where you legitimately do not have a starter right now. Maybe these guys develop into starters or become starters. None of them have started any games, so you do not have a starter at linebacker. But quarterback, yes, you have a quarterback who has started multiple games in the ACC and in, was that the Sun Belt? Is that where South Alabama is at? Yeah.
Yep. Look like a different guy, but we've
It's
discussed
just
that
the
over and over.
hating on Lopez is just out of control, I think, but that's just me.
I tend to agree. There's like I said, he's just a different person, a different player than he was at South Alabama. I
Yeah.
get the level of competition and all that, but he didn't even look like the same guy. Period.
Yeah, and how much
At
is
North
that
Carolina.
is him, and how much of it is the situation that he's in? And if it's a situation that he's in, which is what I've been trying to explain, then you bring another quarterback and put him in that situation, then there's a very good chance that he looks very similar. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. If
Yeah.
you're going to have Matt Lombardi,
Flat
as your
out, just say it.
quarterback,
We're talking about Matt Lombardi and Freddie Kitchens.
Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah.
And what we can look at Lopez and see what he's done in another situation. We can't look at Matt Lombardi and see what he's done in another situation because he hasn't been in this position before. I don't believe he's ever been a position coach before. And now he's coaching quarterbacks in an ACC school. Kitchens, I believe he's been he was offensive coordinator for the Browns at one
He's
point.
been around.
Head coach.
Let's just say let's say that it wasn't the best situation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about defense. I just don't want to get into that debate again.
I don't want. It's just, to me, I feel like at this point we're just picking on the kid for no reason. I mean, he can go in the portal, end up going to a group of 5 next year, and end up having a good year, and it wouldn't shock me. And actually, that would be my expectations. If he got into a system that was going to kind of let him loose and not make him think so much and allow him to kind of be himself, it wouldn't surprise me if his season was similar to what he had as a sophomore at South Alabama.
Yeah, I tend to always blame the adults. So that is my default when we're talking about this kind of stuff, unless it comes to just stuff that kids do that is unacceptable. So anyway, defensive backfield. We're talking with Don. Hold on, I got to do this because this is where, if you're listening on the audio version, you're about to catch another ad. Resetting with Don Callahan in the noon dish here, talking about North Carolina's roster situation on the defensive side of the ball. Don, defensive backs. Marcus Allen, gone. Gavin Gibson, gone. Hardy, gone. Dixon, gone. Khalil Conley, transferred. Ty White, transferred. You got a stack of returners. You got a stack of signees. I like Caleb Cost. I thought Jaden Patterson showed a lot. I think Greg Smith showed a lot. There's 4 potential. If you're playing a nickel backfield back there, there's 3 starters, I think. But you still think
Patterson, who was the third?
Patterson, Cost, and Greg Smith. I think Greg Smith is a safety starter.
Okay.
He could slide down and be a linebacker starter. Who knows? But at any rate, this position group needs a quality ad or two. First of all, let me ask you about the signees. Who on your list here? You got Weatherspoon. Dobson was a high-level recruit. I saw him repeatedly seen as Carolina's best recruit of the class. Who here you think has potential to make an impact next year? The freshmen and the signees.
Let me rephrase it as who has the best chance to, because I'm just not a big believer in true freshmen as in general making a major impact, just because history tells us otherwise. So in the past, I went back and looked the past 10 years, there were 3 true freshmen at North Carolina who saw more than half of either the offensive or defensive snaps. One of them was Sam Howell. The other one was Aiden Banfield. I forget who the third was a defender. I have to go look. But that is such a small, I don't know the exact percentage, but it's under 1% if you consider all of the true freshmen that North Carolina has had in the past 10 years. So it doesn't speak highly of the chance of true freshmen seeing the field, and it makes you wonder, if they are, how good the roster is, or how good that specific position is if you're having true freshmen come out there. Not to say they can't play. We definitely see some true freshmen play and have good years. Damon June is a great example. But to see a significant amount of snaps is a whole different ball game. I don't even think June saw half. I got to go back and look at the running back group, but I'm pretty sure he didn't see half of or maybe he did. I have to look.
It's close.
It was close, yeah. But anyway, but to answer your question, I really like Dobson, but he's not just a true freshman. This is a kid who still should be in high school next year because he reclassified. So, but I do like I like Dobson a lot because of the fact that he's a kid who trains. Reminds me a lot of I guess I don't know if I should bring up the name Grimes, but just a kid who it means a lot to him. Does a lot of extra work on the side on his own, and understands that the cornerback position can be a lonely position. And so you kind of have to, a lot of times you're only going to be able to rely on yourself. And so you better make sure your preparation aligns with that. And that's exactly what he does. So I think he's a kid who actually could be really good as a true freshman. I'm worried about that, but I think ultimately he could be, and there's a lot of really good talent in here for sure. I like Jamarian Gordon a lot. And he's actually one of the lower ranked ones. But he's a kid who, and this, I mention all the time, I like prospects who can do a lot of different things, who excel at other sports. He's a member of their basketball team that won the state championship last year. He is, I believe, one of their, if not their top receiver for his high school this past season, even though he plays with Red Chapman. Red Chapman was injured most of the season, so that kind of opened things up for Gordon to get a lot of passes. And then obviously he's playing safety and he returns, kicks and punts, and he punts. He was their main punter. I love skilled players who punt. It just speaks to just being a natural athlete. Anybody who watches UNC pregame warmups, and this is not something that's called on TV. You have to arrive to Kenan Stadium early, but Tyler Thompson takes punts before. So if the team comes out without pads and just kind of doing warm-ups and doing different things, and then they go back into the locker room and then come out again with pads, and it's just a little bit more physical with the warm-up, and then they go back in and they come out for good. Well, before he goes in the first time, this is where the specialists are there, and the specialists, I guess, are just walking off the field, and he will take a bunch of punts and he will punt it. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence. He's also one of the better defenders on this defense too. He's just a natural athlete.
Yeah, Eric Miller and chat mentions Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas was the punter, and Mike Thomas for Richmond County back in the day did everything for that defense or for that school. Played quarterback, punted. He didn't play defense for Richmond County because they didn't need him to. He wasn't like a Marion at Cleveland playing every position on the field just about. But Mike Thomas was a stud back in the day.
Mike Hughes punted.
So I got, that's a question for a later show. We were talking about Carolina players in the pros. Do you count Mike Hughes?
He played at Carolina.
It's close enough. So the returners here, you mentioned in your portal paragraph down at the bottom, you mentioned Coleman Bryson.
That's not updated, so I'd be careful, but go ahead.
Well, I mean, took 4 of the 5 secondary starters. Patterson stepped in, was unlocked some things. You got Javion Butts and all. Who here, besides the 3 I mentioned, do you think, well, this is more of a team question, I guess, but from following them recruiting-wise and portal-wise, who on this list could step in? I mean, we thought Malcolm Ziegler would be one of those guys, and he ain't got any chance.
I don't understand the Ziegler stuff because I think 0.9% of the defensive snaps. I think only one game he played some secondary, and that was it. Now, he's been making crazy plays in special teams. But to answer your question, the name you mentioned, Javion Butts, not just because I like saying his last name, but because if his numbers, 6%, doesn't seem impressive. But if you look at the last, 4 or 5 games, That's where he got all of his snaps. He hardly saw any snaps earlier on in the season. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a guy who obviously was coming on towards the end of the season. So he could kind of slide into that secondary that you were putting together with Cost and Patterson and Greg Smith.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some potential here. What do you think there's the need for a high-level starter if you can get one out of the portal here? Or do you think they can get by with that?
Yeah, so I think in a vacuum, you would probably like to add a guy or two. But I think if you're considering the entire team, we're basically done all the positions except for specialist, which I don't think we need to get into too much. But if we were going to rank them, that should be our top 5. The top 5 position needs. I mean, to me, offensive line would be number 1. Linebacker would be number 2. I guess. I mean, you agree with me so far?
I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed not to have people saying quarterback
Everyone's
up
going
at
to say
the top.
quarterback. But
I do believe offensive line's first.
So you go quarterback over linebacker?
Given as the roster stands right this second, I'd probably give you linebacker second.
Okay. And then after that, I mean,
I don't think they need to waste money on defensive linemen unless they could get some big, huge elite
I think we
guy.
could say is last.
Yes.
And then it's just a matter of
is secondary second to last?
Yeah. Because all right, so offensive line, linebacker, and then the other positions left would be quarterback, tight end, which is the room is completely just obliterated.
I mean, did they even catch any passes? Just put it, did it against TCU and just put an extra tackle out there?
Am I forgetting a position? Quarterback, tight end, and then
you got DL, linebacker, secondary. You got quarterback, running back. I think the running back's sufficient.
I like the running backs. I know that I got a lot of pushback on the running backs. I like the running backs too, although that has changed since Bullet left a little bit. But I still, I mean, what do you like the running back room better than the DB room?
I like the DB room better than the running back room right now.
Right now?
I mean, look, it's just like we've said and Greg said and I've said and you said, if they don't get the offensive line right, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
I mean, we can talk about the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach and all that, but if the offensive line sucks, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can't do anything if you can't block anybody.
Yeah.
And I do think the offensive line got banged on this year, maybe more so than they should have. They weren't great. They could have been a lot better, but I think they did enough. When you look at Gio's issues processing and getting the ball out, and then you look at the running backs not breaking tackles, I mean, those type things. But I think if you don't have a solid offensive line, you got no shot. I don't care how good the quarterback is. I mean, we've seen elite quarterbacks on the professional level not have a chance.
Yeah.
Because they don't have an offensive line. So offensive line, I'll give you first. Defensive line's last. We can debate the rest of them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. No, look, God, offensive line is just.
Where's that one? Let me get back. Well, we're on the defensive side, but the offensive line, you lose just right there. It is.
I mean, if you didn't have the portal, oh God, if you didn't have the portal, you'd have Jordan Hall, Aiden Banfield, and Eden Buchanan. Okay. And then you're either going with your man Pazanski, Trey Blue, or Byron Nelson, who didn't see any snaps this past season, or a true freshman.
Well, to Blue and Nelson's credit, a couple of the current guys or the guys that are going out, when asked who in the offensive line might surprise next year, Blue and Nelson got mentions.
Okay.
and there's been several people that are higher on Byron Nelson.
Yeah, I've heard the same.
So we'll see. But I mean, Eden Buchanan started against TCU as a true freshman.
Well, they
That
realized that
developed.
that was a mistake, but yeah.
It was definitely not the best situation for him, but if he can progress, then you've got something to work with there. But to your point, look at who's gone.
Yeah. I mean,
King, Moore, Blasky, Osteen, Lindbergh, McVeigh, Boone, Kelly. I think Christo Kelly comes back. That's
yeah.
not reporting. That's assuming. Travion Green and Janai Norwood, who we thought would be pretty good. I thought he'd be a defensive lineman. But yeah, who are those freshmen? And we're getting off the topic. But who are those freshmen could play? Could Shabazz play?
I mean, look. I mean, that's like the worst position when it comes to like start as a true freshman, playing as a true freshman. I mean, I guess
and you already mentioned, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but you already mentioned that Zion Smith and Fumera are two of the three that aren't going to be there in January. Yeah. So that sets you back.
So we do have that Jonah Rodriguez is a JUCO who spent a year at Arizona, spent a year at San Diego State, and then obviously this past season was at Southwestern College in California. So he definitely will be in the mix.
Yeah. So you've got maybe currently on the roster without portal, Hall, Banfield if they're healthy, Buchanan, Nelson could be your center, and then Rodriguez. That could potentially be your starting five in Ireland.
On that?
Huh?
How confident do you feel?
If I nailed it today on December the 10th, and that's the starting five on when they go to Ireland in August or early September, where it is, that'll be something. Mark it. Somebody make notes of it right now. I said Hall, Banfield, Buchanan, Byron Nelson, and Jonah Rodriguez starting offensive line for next year.
So now I don't think he'll be ready, but the best chance besides Rodriguez among the high school kids, the best chance is Will Conroy. And he'd be a center type of kid. Played center at IMG Academy. Another situation, spent, I think it was a year at IMG, football 365, practicing against 5 stars. So, but a little bit different in college.
Let me do this. Let me ask you a question, and we're going to wrap this up because we like to get out of here on an hour, and we're going to do the top 5. And I've only got one person that submitted top 5 desserts or home cooked desserts, and that's Preston. Man, what is wrong with folks? There's 150 people in here. So I know y'all like sweets. I've been to tailgates, and y'all will be rolling up with some crazy food. So put the sweets in there for holiday sweets, homemade. Damn, I forgot my question. It was a good one too. I started thinking about food. How many people do you think they'll get out of the portal? We talked about that to start.
Yeah. I mean, here's the issue, right? Is that they signed 39, let's just say 40 to keep it a round number, high school kids, right? The complaint all of last year is 70 new faces. If North Carolina brings in another 30 from the portal, then we'll have 70 new faces again, which we know that doesn't work well. So I feel like 30 has to be the ceiling. You're probably going, I don't know. I mean, and it's so hard to tell what this staff is thinking a lot of the times. I mean, you definitely feel like they're going to at least try to get a quarterback out of the portal. That's everything that we've heard. They're trying to get a portal. And then clearly people in the chat do not like North Carolina's current starter. I mean, how many offensive linemen do you not need to bring in? Like at least 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah, let me do this. Well, to your point, I think they've got a hit. Last year you could bring them in January. If they weren't any good, you could run them off in April, which to Miles McVeigh's credit, and I said it on the message board and I said it in the podcast, I never thought he would stick after the spring, and he did, and he ended up playing, and he issued a wonderful statement when he entered the transfer portal again. So shout out to that young man, or that gigantic young man, for doing what you have to do and getting better and staying the grind. But let me mention this. Another reason to join Inside Carolina's premium stuff, MacBook, Mac TTP. If you're on the Tar Pit premium message boards, you're familiar. If you're not, you need to be familiar. He updated this post at this is great radio, and I apologize, but he updated this post Monday at 5:50, so it's probably changed. In fact, I'm sure it's changed. But he's got 100 people on scholarship currently right now. The limit is 105. This includes the freshman class. Okay? Attrition so far, early attrition, there's 16 of them. And then you've got non-attrition departures, which is your graduates or your people that are done or medically retired. But if Carolina's at 105 right now, and the portal has not opened, and they have not taken their first portal commitment, Don, and we've talked about the holes they've got on this roster, the question would be, how much better in the portal can you get versus what you already have on the roster? That is the most underrated aspect of evaluation, I think, on this whole thing.
Yeah.
And that is huge. And how much do people trust this staff and this group to be able to determine that? Otherwise, to your point earlier, there are going to be 70 new faces. Your take on that aspect of it, 100 right now.
Yeah, I think it was I wish I knew what exact article it was, but it was in The Athletic. I need to start posting these on the message board now that I believe, don't you get a free Athletic subscription?
Yes.
So I'm a huge Athletic reader.
They do some quality work.
Yeah.
I've already got the subscription.
Yeah. I've had that subscription for a long time. Did I ever tell you the story that one of my friends growing up was the creator at The Athletic?
Mm-mm.
Alex Mather. I had no idea until I was kind of just looking up some stuff on The Athletic. Alex Mather from Philadelphia, went and looked it up, and it was the Alex Mather who, hung out with them, sleepovers, all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't really surprise me because he was actually, I was friends with his half-brother or stepbrother, and he was a year older than me, but he hung out with us because he actually went to a, he went to a school for like super intelligent kids. And so he didn't have friends in the neighborhood, so he'd always hang out with us. But anyway, and that's not why I like The Athletic. I think The Athletic does a really good job. There was a story where they were, anonymous quotes from different general managers about just portal approach and that sort of thing. And it talks about just how important it is to, and I'm paraphrasing, they didn't use this exact phrase, to not fall for the grass is always greener fallacy. In that you got to understand that you have way more information about the players on your roster, warts and all, than you do about a player who's in the portal. And you're more likely to know the positives and not the negatives of the player in the portal because most people don't like to talk about the negatives. You're not going to get the negatives when you're talking to the recruit. And you might not get all the negatives when you're kind of doing your due diligence and talking to people close to him. So yeah, there is some sort of balance with that. And I think there's some sort of learning with that. I don't think there's anything in the NFL that kind of matches that because of the advanced scouting is way more advanced, pun not intended, than it is in college football. Because, practices are, you can see and training camps are open to the public and all of that. So I think that's the balance there. And there is a very good chance that there are players here at North Carolina's roster who we didn't get to see in games who are going to end up being better players than what you can get out of the portal. And so, you just have to make sure that the evaluation is there.
Indeed. I remember my question. I need a short answer from you because I called out for food choices and I got several. So we want to do that, but we're almost an hour and I don't like going over an hour. How important is it? And we talked about this last year, going into the portal of having an offensive coordinator named if they're changing it, a new one. Now, folks need to understand they don't always announce firings. They just pop up and announce a hiring. So, everybody wants blood, and I get it, but they don't always do it that way. So when Inside Carolina knows and we can report that there's been a new hire or some shift in the offensive coordinator situation, we will. But Don, on your side of the thing, guys want to know, we talked about this all last year, and this is the question I had early. I should have asked it about learning from last year. Guys want to know who their coaches are. How important is it that they hurry up and get this announced before the portal opens on January 2nd?
I'll just say that it absolutely is important to most portal transfers. Now, if you're a portal transfer who is just purely trying to make as much money as possible, and you probably don't view having much of an NFL career or whatever, then obviously it's not going to factor in. And those are probably not players that you want. But if you are a player who, you want to improve your situation, you want to win a championship or whatever it may be, you want to know who's going to be coaching you, who's going to be developing you, what sort of system that you're going to be in. And so, yeah, I think it's absolutely important. You can transpose it to any other job situation. If you're going to take a job, you want to know who you're going to be working under. If it's some sort of situation like it's an apprenticeship, you want to know what their background is, and so you can kind of learn just, okay, what's my development potential here in this situation. So no, I agree. I think it's very important. There's a very real possibility though that decisions could be made, but not announced too, and that it's just kind of shared with the staff. But then again, I mean, we went last year with a lot of recruits saying, yeah, I remember one linebacker recruit said, hey, I spoke to Bob Diaco, and he said he wasn't sure if he might be coaching me or somebody else might be coaching me. So, and this was in I think it was in February, so, or January. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to get much resolution, at least publicly. But yeah, to answer your question, yeah, it definitely matters to most transfer portal kids.
Absolutely. Great point about just the straight dollar mercenaries. Just give me the money. I don't care. I'll show up. But yeah, it's not like that for most kids. Wrapping up here on the noon dish, it's been an hour plus of Don Callahan and me talking about portal work that needs to be done, roster work that needs to be done. North Carolina's got their hands full and building this roster back. We're going to talk about the top five home cooked sweets. We've got some choices in here, and I'm going to mark them and I'm going to talk. And Don, you can get yours ready because we're going to go quick.
Okay.
Preston, you dropped yours early. Brownies, chocolate fudge, monkey bread. That might be what I was talking about earlier. That's another name brand for that stuff. Chocolate chip cookies, Snickers cake. I don't know about all that. Gerald Spates says pecan pie, no pecan pie in these parts. Cheesecake, German chocolate cake. I don't like coconut. And I think German chocolate cake and coconut cream pie has coconut. But I hear they're great. And then pound cake. Pound cake, if it's done right and not too dry and too dense. And if you add chocolate chips to the pound cake, that just makes it, fabulous. McDrugy 3. I don't know. Bourbon pumpkin cheesecake. That might be nice. Red velvet. Red velvet cake's just chocolate cake with red flavoring. That's what I've always been told. Chocolate chip cookie or chocolate cookies with peanut butter chips and white chocolate chips. Cherry yum yum. That sounds good. Coconut cake. Solid work. Sour cream coconut cake, pecan pie, coconut pie, banana pudding, oatmeal cookies. Homemade oatmeal cookies? Can people make those? Fireman Freeman, right? Number 1, banana pudding. Number 2, honey bun cake. Number 3, carrot cake. There's some strong carrot cake out there. Number 4, chocolate cake. Number 5, sweet potato pie. Vince McKnight dropped chocolate cream pie. fact checker Rusty. He's probably busy when you're watching these shows if you're fact checking this crap. Top 5: chocolate dip pretzels, no bake oatmeal cookies, Rice Krispie treats, got it. Chocolate chip cookies, walnut brownies. Man, I'm starving. Dwayne, cherry cheesecake, peppermint bark, love it, love it. Banana pudding, I can eat it. Rum balls, Penzone. Not a giant fan, but they're good. Sweet potato pie. Look at Michael Daniels saying pig picking cake. Good gracious, man. Don, I'm coming to your house. You're cooking all this stuff. Melinda dropping chocolate chip. Hold on, chocolate chip date nut cake. Is that one thing? I've never heard of that. Might have to try that. Peanut butter chocolate frosting on yellow cake, coconut cake, chocolate chip cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies. That's amazing. How hungry am I? I hope I didn't miss anybody. Don, what you got?
All right. So brownies, neighbor across the street makes awesome brownies. We had the Christmas party at our house over the weekend. Had to sneak out to watch the championship games. But definitely a bunch of brownies. Rice Krispie treats, of course. Love the different Christmas cookies. So I love peanut butter cookies, chocolate chip cookies. The oatmeal raisin cookies are awesome. The one key, particularly with the chocolate chip and the peanut butter cookies, I like soft cookies. And now there is a trick if you're making them at home. When you store them in the container, you put a slice of bread in there. Do you know about this trick?
No, I've never heard of this.
It actually keeps the cookies soft, and it works. So yeah, so that's my thing. What about you, Tommy?
Okay, I mentioned earlier the chew bread or the pecan caramel brownie type chew bread. It might be called monkey bread. Somebody in the chat, I think Preston mentioned. I can't.
Over.
You need to try it. I kill it, man. I eat the whole pan. It wears you out. There's always been this thing called a raw apple cake in my family. It's raw apple cake, and it's 3 layers, and it's covered with caramel icing. It's unbelievable. It's a home cooked thing. That was something my mom always did. Then you got carrot cake. I'm not a huge fan of carrots, but I love carrot cake with that cream cheese icing on it.
Yeah,
that's unbelievable. My better half makes brownies. 1 layer of brownie mix, 1 layer of Hershey bars, 1 layer of brownie mix. If you want to die from chocolate poisoning, that's probably the way to do it. And
there's no better way to die.
Oh, I know. And then that I can't remember. It was called ambrosia, but it wasn't really sweet, right? It was a fruit thing, but I always had it for dessert when I was little. It was a mixture of all the different fruits up. It was ambrosia because that's what the food of the gods or the nectar of the gods or whatever. So a lot of good stuff. But my top would be my mom's raw apple cake and this chew bread stuff. So, oh boy, it's time to go work out, go exercise, do something.
Oh yeah.
Don, I'm gonna get us out of here, buddy. It's been fun.
Yep. Appreciate everybody in here. A lot of new faces.
Yeah, we lost everybody. We started talking about food, and everybody checked out. So maybe they're going to cook some food, and maybe we'll have a party one day, and everybody can bring potluck, and we'll have all the sweets. But that's Don Callahan. I'm Tommy Ashley. It's been the Noon Dish. Shout out to Johnny T-shirt, and again, go to InsideCarolina.com. Sign up for your new premium membership on the On3 network. Get it. It's worth every penny. Support Johnny T-shirt and JohnnyT-shirt.com with their 10% discount for those members. And everybody just stay safe and review, rate, all the good stuffs. This will be on the audio feeds later this evening. But if you're so inclined, drop a question in the chat or email us, and we'll take it up next time. Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Tommy.